Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the OnePlus X. This is OnePlus's budget phone, but it's really more of a designer phone, I think, from what I've seen online so far. You still need an invite to buy them unless you get in some of their special little contests, but this is a pretty inexpensive phone, around $250. It doesn't really have too much of a budget spec list, but we'll go over that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and open it up. Now, compared to the previous versions, we have the OnePlus One, and then the OnePlus 2 here, and then the OnePlus X. So we'll take a look at what they look like compared to each other. So we get this box open here. This phone is all glass, has a little bit lesser size screen. There we go. It's opening more like an Apple box, extremely slowly. There we go. So this is a little bit smaller device. Okay, it's kind of wedged in here. Set this aside just for a moment and see what we've got. So inside here, we have some literature. We've got a quick start guide and a user guide. And that's it as far as that part goes. Let's put this back. And then inside, we don't have the newer USB-C. I believe we have a USB or a micro USB. Yep, we do. Micro USB, just like the OnePlus One cable. And then we have the AC wall plug to USB. It looks like that's all we get there. Let's see if this pops off. There we go. And then inside of here, this pops open. Let's see here. We've got, I can get this to slide out here. There we are. We've got a case included, which is nice. I didn't know that. And then we have a SIM removal tool. So let's keep the case out. I've heard this is a really slippery phone. And we'll set this stuff aside and we'll take a closer look at the device itself. So this is pretty heavy actually when I'm just holding it here like this. Surprisingly heavy. It's made in China and by the company OnePlus, and they've made what they've called the flagship killer in the past. Set this aside. The front and back on this one are actually glass. And they do offer it in ceramic, but not in the United States. They weren't offering that here. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. So really nice looking device. Pretty thin. And it looks really familiar to an iPhone 4, which is actually one of my favorite designs of iPhones. And so that's not a bad thing by any means. On the side, we've got aluminum that's chamfered. That looks really nice. The front, it is pretty slippery. Feels like a sheet of glass, and then real thin phone in the hand. It feels really good though, and I really like it just looking at it for the first time. You have a little switch here. This is your switch that they introduced with the OnePlus 2, which is great for notifications. And then your power, volume, and our little SIM card slot there. On the bottom, we have our micro USB. It looks like our speakers and maybe a microphone there. On the top, 3.5mm headphone jack and microphone. No NFC in this particular device, which is a little bit of a disappointment, and no fingerprint reader. So let's go ahead and turn it on, and I'll give you an idea of what it looks like next to the other devices. So here's the OnePlus One. Actually, let me put them this way. OnePlus One, OnePlus X, and OnePlus 2. So we have a little bit smaller display. We have a 5-inch display as opposed to a 5.5-inch display or 6-inch displays on some other larger phones. But that's not a problem. You can do most things in one hand when you're using that. Aside from this is called Onyx Glass. This is an AMOLED display, which is also really nice. That part I've been looking forward to. It's Gorilla Glass 3, so Corning Gorilla Glass 3. It's a 1080p display at 441 pixels per inch, and that should be pretty nice compared to most other phones. To give you an idea, an iPhone 6 Plus and 6S Plus is this large as far as the display resolution, but actually in a bigger display. So you get more pixels packed in a smaller display. It should look pretty nice. So let's go ahead and hit next here. It wants me to insert a SIM card. Now, this has a dual SIM card slot, and it also, and let me show you actually. I'll pop this out and show you what it looks like. You actually have dual SIM capability, or you can expand the storage. Now this only comes with 16 gigabytes of internal storage, so you might want to use that for expanded storage. So what they've done is created this nice little thing here. We've got the ability to put 2 SIM cards here, or extra micro SD storage. So it's pretty nice. You can have the choice. I'll put SIM cards in it later, but we'll just go through the SIM card, or skip that for now rather. Select my Wi-Fi network. I'll connect. You can see this is a pretty glossy display too. I am under some bright lights, but it is pretty glossy. Now, as far as the design goes, I actually prefer this design to these other designs. These are definitely more grippy with this sand feel on the back, but this is a much nicer design, I think. Move to the next step here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can get a closer look. I'm going to restore from the previous device. Now you can see I have some other ones here that I can restore from. Actually, I want to restore from this one. I like all the apps that are on that, so we'll restore from that one. We'll hit next. Set the lock screen. We'll just do a pattern. Z for Zollotech. Hit continue. You can see how much this is sliding around as I try and set this up as well. Sure. Let's show notification content. Google services, back everything up. Use location services, help improve location, help improve your Android. Sure, why not? And it's restoring. So we'll wait for this to restore, and we'll talk a little bit more about specs. Now, there's a couple downsides to it and some positives. One of the positives, or maybe negatives, depends on how you look at it, is it uses micro USB here in the bottom. Micro USB is, I don't know that it's necessarily an outgoing technology, but everything newer, such as the OnePlus 2, the Nexus devices, are all moving to a USB-C, which is a reversible connector. This is great for future use, but right now there's probably a ton of those around. I know I have quite a few of the USB-C, or micro USB rather, sitting around, and I actually like that I have a ton of those around and they're cheap. The other disadvantage to this one is no NFC, like I mentioned before, and we have no fingerprint reader. So no NFC means no Android Pay, no easy way to unlock your phone. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. And this display looks fantastic, actually. It's an AMOLED display, nice blacks, and it's restoring. So let's talk about the specs inside. So while this restores, this is restoring using Android 5.1.1. We don't have Marshmallow on this. They're saying the beginning of next year or 2016, depending on when you're watching this. This has a Snapdragon 801 processor with a quad-core 2.3 GHz GPUs, or CPUs rather, with an Adreno 330 GPU inside of it. It also has 3 GB of RAM, 16 GB of storage, expandable up to 128, like I said before, with that SIM card slot, unless you're using the dual SIMs. It's also got all the sensors and things you'd want, Bluetooth, all that sort of thing inside, but it's missing a couple cellular bands that probably will affect, well, it'll affect me because I use T-Mobile now. It doesn't have the 700 megahertz band, so that's some LTE bands that I might be missing out on, depending on where I'm traveling to. Also, this doesn't seem to have wireless 802.11 AC, but it does have BG and N from what I was able to find on OnePlus's website. So it's got some great specs. It is a little bit budget because of the lack of the other things, but honestly, there's nothing that feels budget about this phone so far. Still restoring, and this will probably... Oh, there we go. It says will help you personalize. So we'll hit next here. We can use the software buttons, or we can use the buttons at the bottom of the screen. I'll use the ones at the bottom of the screen. And now we have some gestures, and I really like this about OnePlus. Toggle the flashlight, we draw a V, an O, double tap to wake the device. I think they should all use that. I don't use the music one. We can use the Google keyboard or Swift key. Now I know a lot of you probably won't understand this, but I just like a normal keyboard, Google keyboard. And then we can enable Shelf, which is OnePlus's Oxygen OS Shelf application. We'll hit next. And it's set up, so let's see what we've got here. Things are still restoring though, it looks like. Restoring application, so you can see that right there. So nice and fast, we'll say got it. And we'll swipe this way, and here is the shelf. So it shows frequent apps and frequent contacts. That'll show up a little bit later. Down here we have software buttons. You can barely see them. Let me see if you can see these if I zoom in a little bit. I don't know that you can see it, but there's just this little outline and a couple lines. Similar to the OnePlus 2, they don't seem to light up this time. So we've got that. Everything looks really nice. This is a very slippery phone and very fingerprint magnet, much like I expected. It feels fantastic though. This is a really nice feeling device. I hate to put a case on it that they included here, just because it feels so nice, honestly. This feels like it's cheapening a super nice device, but it's not. It's kind of necessary right now, it feels like, just because it's so slippery. The touchscreen feels very responsive, initial reaction. It's very slippery. I really like that feel compared to, say, a OnePlus One. This screen doesn't feel as slick, and a OnePlus 2 doesn't either. They're just not as slippery. This one feels really slippery, like they've gone out of their way and put a different coating on it or something. I really like it, and I like the fact that I can hold it in my right hand, even though I have larger hands, and it doesn't seem to be so big that I have to kind of use two hands to move around on it. I like that a lot. Now, the other thing I didn't mention about this phone is the rear-facing camera. It also has a front-facing camera we'll talk more about in just a second, but the rear-facing camera is 13 megapixels. It's an f2.2 aperture and should be pretty good. The only disadvantage is there's no 4K with this device, so you don't get a 4K camera, you get a 1080p camera, and then you've got slow motion 120 frames per second at 720p. So that should be good for most people, but some people that want that 4K, you won't get it here. Now, the front-facing camera is an 8 megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture, and that should be more than enough for most people. That's a pretty high-resolution front-facing camera, so that should be pretty good. Now, the only other thing that you probably want to know is the actual battery size. Now, the battery inside should be large enough. It's 2,525 milliamp hours. It's a lithium polymer battery, and that should be enough to get this through a day, I would hope, and then some, but only time will tell as far as that goes. So while we're waiting for the rest of this to restore, let me show you those gestures if you've never seen a OnePlus phone. If I want to turn on the flashlight on the back here, you just draw a V, and it turns on. Draw a V again, and it shuts off. If I draw a circle, it turns on the camera. Well, it didn't work that time, but in general, it turns on the camera when you draw a circle. The other thing you can do is double tap the home screen to wake. Now, LG has that, OnePlus has that. To me, it's a must in all modern Android phones. Double tap while it's on the tabletop or wherever you've got it. You can open it up and take a look at whatever you're doing. That's pretty much it when it comes to the OnePlus X. Let me know what you think about it, though, in the comments below. Would you like to see a video comparing the OnePlus X benchmark-wise to the OnePlus 1 and 2 or any other phones? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you are looking for invites, unfortunately, I don't have any. I don't get many invites. If I do give them, I'll be sure to let you know on different social media channels, so be sure to check them out there. If you have any other questions, though, let me know there. Please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.